Now, good morning. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne, or are you?
What?
Perhaps we're artificial intelligence.
Oh, one day we will be. But you won't have to get out of bed in the morning.
No, we might be
Just
deep...
send your... What do you call it? Your...
thingy.
Avatar. Send your avatar to go and do the programme.
We could be deep fake. You know, we could be doing anything, couldn't we? It's all very clever.
We probably are.
Now, someone who knows all about AI is futurist and broadcaster Andrew Eborn, who's here. Good morning.
Good morning, here in the flesh as well.
There's been lots of panic about AI lately, lots of concern. You actually work with a lot of big tech companies.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what is going on?
Well, Stephen Hawking said it's our greatest human achievement, but also potentially our biggest existential threat. And like anything that people don't really fully understand, there's a lot of fear involved. People think Goldman Sachs said it's going to replace 300 million jobs are going to be lost as a result of it. People are going to think they're going to lose their GPs and so on and so forth.
Well, you see, that's what got me, because I have to say that you're speaking to two people who hate talking AI because it just goes, don't know what, we can't grasp it. But we saw this story today about the fact that it is a legitimate thought that perhaps an AI-type intelligence or a robot or something could replace our GPs, could become the first level of healthcare in this country. So instead of going to your GP with, pimple on your arm,
yes,
you actually ask the AI about it.
Very good, absolutely. And it's a report in the Mail today. They talk about Dr. Ellie versus Dr. AI. And actually what they did, they asked it 5 questions and they valued the response. So 3 doctors looked at the responses from Dr. Ellie and the response from Dr. AI.
And these were 5 questions that were proper sort of patient problems.
Yes, but there were 5 questions, but quite complicated, yeah. And they were surprised at how good it was. Actually, the reason this came about was actually from the University of California in San Diego, who did a much wider research on basically 195 exchanges on Ask Docs on Reddit. And the Reddit is used by, I think there's like 452,000 people post their answers. And it was completely blind. They looked at all the doctors' responses, and they then said, OK, the AI, let's look at similar responses. And what they found out is that they thought that they were higher quality and also more empathetic from the AI. So it really depends on how you ask them, because they've got more time to do it. So I appreciate the Mail have done this. They've asked 5 questions as opposed to the 195 picked at random, but they've done this. The reality is this, is firstly, people are frightened of what they don't know. Artificial intelligence is tremendous in terms of a really powerful tool for what it can do. So give you an example, a superbug, which has killed 1 million people. What AI managed to do was come up with a potential solution to that, which would have taken people years and years and years to do. It's a really powerful tool. And what it can do is it can disseminate information. I spoke very recently, Rishi Sunak was at the conference, the tech conference we had here in London, and I was at the AI Summit as well as part of that. And he was saying, look, we should be at the very front and centre of AI around the world.
And is that good for the economy?
It's phenomenally good for the economy. We punch way above our weight in AI. We're one of the best in the world at doing it. But what we have to do is make sure people understand. It will basically be a tremendous tool. There are concerns, however, because it can do things like create. And we talk about the deep fakes. We talk about the Pope in a puffer jacket, Yeah. The devil may wear Prada, but the Pope prefers puffer, is what they say. But you have to basically question everything. The other big issue is about hallucinations. Because AI, if it doesn't know an answer, it's rather like lots of reports in the media, they try and fill the vacuum. So you work on that sort of basis. It will make things up. I'll give you an example. They had a lawyer in America. He was representing a particular client in a negligence claim by an airline. The particular client was hit by one of these trolleys, and they basically were looking for cases. So they asked the AI chatbot, give us some cases, and the AI chatbot quoted this airline sued by this person and so on and so forth, and it came up with 3 of those. The lawyer went to court and said these 3 cases very confidently, and the judge looked at him rather puzzled and said, hang on, none of these are true. And what had happened is the AI had made every single one up. Because it didn't know the answer. So the short answer is this: you have to understand the limitations of AI, but also work on the basis that you can fill those voids.
But isn't the part of the problem with all this, as we investigate and worry about it all, that AI, we talk about AI doesn't exist yet.
Well, it's basically, it's that wonderful term, everything is AI. So you have to start with what's a definition. Basically, artificial intelligence is the way that machines can replicate human behaviour.
Yeah, so, so they're not actually using it. All they're using is what the input that we've given them. Actual AI, where machines can think for itself, hasn't been invented.
It's very good. It's what's called narrow AI, which is you give a specific task. So you say to Alexa, switch on GB News, it will switch on GB News, all happening around the country now. Yes. You work on that sort of basis, as opposed to something where you've got sentient and that sort of side. It doesn't think for itself. And all this bit about that sort of stuff, it's only as good as the input. So you've got to make sure that the data, and data is the new currency. What? You know, we talk about threads and so on and so forth. Data is the new currency.
To put to AI how we should deal with another pandemic?
Oh, absolutely, and they will come up with answers, but what it's doing is looking at the different things. The great thing from a medical point of view is you can put in things, and I speak to lots of doctors around the world about this, if you give them lots of x-rays to compare, it is very good at disseminating lots of information and say, oh, hang about, based on this, it's likely to be this. And all the people that I've spoken to in the medical profession have said, actually, that's a really, really powerful tool. So rather than scaremongering people, we have to work on the basis of, look, how can it be used? The other point to make, and saying all due respect to our friends in the Mail today, is that it continues to learn. So if you want to say, hang about, let's give us a bit more empathy, let's learn from the mistakes, because it's only as good as the data. And what I would always say is that make sure there's a human somewhere in the chain.
Yeah.
Because we have it passing medical exams, we have it passing bar exams around the world from legal, and the Master of the Rolls over here, he was basically saying we should be using AI in the legal profession to help basically with efficiencies. Let's make sure that people happen and that sort of thing. But it's dealing with your point. People are worried that you don't see a real human. If you cannot get an appointment with a doctor, wouldn't it be fantastic that you can speak to something that can give you reassurance, can give you empathy?
Consider it reliable.
Oh no, absolutely, and that's that sort of safeguard. But if it can deal with a lot of the admin to make that more efficient, so the NHS is not just about money, it's about efficiencies. So that's what AI can do. Also,
isn't that what's happening a lot with what I can't think of the exact term you'll know, but it's like a wide-based AI.
Exactly. So you have
so it's not just like with Alexa where you have to ask a specific question.
Yes.
But Bing have introduced it now, haven't they, Microsoft, where actually you can ask a much vaguer question in a much more human way, and it will dig up the information.
Absolutely, and that's the great thing about it. It's looking, and I always try and be positive about the side, because what we do is, it's the father of PR, Edward Bernays, he always said the easiest way of selling anything is through fear. And what happens is the media give you these horrible headlines. Every single day there's an AI story. And what we looked is to turn around and say, look, these are the great things that can be achieved, the great advances in medicine, the seismic advances in entertainment. But you need to make sure that you deal with the commercial side, because you have what's generative AI, which can come up with telling stories. You come up with, we had the fake Drake and the Weekend song, which basically was completely made up, but it fooled the industry into thinking they'd collaborated. And it was phenomenal. What we need to look at, though, there are issues about copyright, because obviously you need to make sure that people are adequately rewarded, but also to make sure that we deal with these things like hallucinations so it doesn't make it up.
Yeah. Oh, it's fascinating stuff, Andrew.
Amazing.
Really good to see you.
Lovely to see you. Good point, well made, though, that we have not yet got sentient AI. No. So that is at least reassuring.
Yes, because that does have its own special concerns.
That becomes a little more frightening.
Yeah. Lovely, Andrew, thank you. Don't go anywhere, we've got all the papers and the sport heading your way very shortly. This is Breakfast.